Olympics, probably not just this year, but for several years, I suppose, with thanks to Indeed, who are proud to support Team Ireland at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Indeed believes the world works better when people are given every opportunity to unleash their true talents. #Unleashed. And I'm very happy to welcome Team USA boxing head coach Billy Walsh is with us. Hey, Billy, you're very welcome.
Good afternoon or good evening. It's great to be here.
Where in the world are you these days?
I'm in the sunny southeast of Wexford, called Wexford.
Oh, good, good. Home?
Got home, yeah, 2 nights ago.
Great. And do you have to self-isolate now? Are you good, or what's the rules? What are you doing at home?
So, I've been vaccinated for a while, so I'm good to go.
Okay, good. So, listen, great to chat to you and to reflect on, I'm sure, a very intense couple of weeks. Just curious, first of all, so when you're the head boxing coach with Ireland, everybody's very focused on how Ireland are doing, and there's lots of questions afterwards and lots of interviews. With Team USA, we're talking about a country who topped the medal table, 113 medals all told, 30 of them being gold. So, like, I don't suspect the New York Times are on your case in a huge way, or are the media onto you and talking about your performance or otherwise? What's it like being that smaller fish in the much bigger bowl?
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. I think everybody in Ireland would know how the boxing team does, and not so much in the States. I think there's been some rumblings, I suppose, because of the fact that the United States now are producing and winning medals again. I think it's the best most medals that we've won since 1996 in boxing. So that probably had a bit of media attention around it. But other than that, no, very little. Just family and friends and back home here in Wexford and in Ireland that are interested in how we're doing. That's really it.
So tell us about the experience out there. This must have been a very different games to anything you've experienced before. Intense with the COVID situation, or did you get used to it? Was it enjoyable? Could you move freely? Could you not move freely? What was the almost schedule like for you out there?
Yeah, look, it was absolutely a different games. The COVID games. It's my 6th Olympic Games, and without doubt, probably the strangest one. But it was we had done a lot of preparation as regards our own camps and stuff that we had to have within the States, and even traveling out of the States, and COVID protocols, so that when we got to the games, that anything that they had prepared wasn't going to ruffle our feathers or put us in a bad way. But once we got into the village and once we had been tested and cleared, we were tested every day, and it was pretty insane because we had already been following a lot of the same protocols back in our own base. We also had been there a couple of weeks prior in the training camp in Miyazaki with the Irish, German and the French team, where it was pretty intense protocols as well.
And within the Olympic Village, because I haven't talked to too many athletes about that, like, were all your fighters free once they're in there and vaccinated to go to the canteen when they liked and to chat to whoever they wanted to in the canteen if they saw someone across or wanted to make new friends or get to know different people, or was it fairly regimented in that respect?
No, we were all together in the canteen, but when you sat down for food, it was perspex in front of you and on either side of you.
Right.
Whoever you're talking to, you had to shout a bit louder, but so they could hear you. But yeah, everybody, we're freely. Everybody in the village was tested on a daily basis, so everybody in there was COVID free.
Okay.
But as I said, we did have perspex when you're in the dining hall, which I think it held up to about 5,000 people at a time. They would all be there walking in, masks, putting on gloves to obviously handle all the stuff that you're going to be touching. Yeah, but it was pretty open, and as I said, everyone was COVID free, so it was, you're able to converse with people and talk with people and enjoy it in some ways, in comparison to maybe other games. It definitely was a bit freer than I thought it would have been.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good to hear. And were athletes free to go and watch other events, or how did that play out in the end?
No, that was difficult. You couldn't really go to other events where you would have previously. You had to go. Your badge got you into wherever you were. whatever event you were at. And then even at that, there was times allotted to you. Like for us going to the changing room, we would go down on the bus, get off the bus, register as we came in. Then we had to go and sit in the place for the athletes. And then exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes prior to your event, you were brought to the changing room. So there was only so many people in the changing room at the same time for the go through the warm up and get your hands wrapped and all of that. So that was nice. And but everybody got used to it. After the first day or two, everybody was falling in line, and it worked out really, really well, actually. It was just completely organised down to a T as regards timing and all that.
I'm always wary of generalising people on the basis of their nationality. I think we can overdo that, but I am curious as to whether you noticed any difference in the culture or atmosphere within an American team environment at the games versus what the Irish environment is like.
Yes, there's obviously different culturally. We're probably streets and miles apart. But I'm almost 6 years over there now, so I'm pretty used to them and they're pretty used to me. So yeah. And at the end of the day, we're all looking for the similar outcomes, and there may be a different way of doing it than what maybe we do it in Ireland. But
and could you tease that out for us? What would the differences be or the comparisons be?
Whereas in Ireland we're probably a little bit more quieter as regards what we want to achieve, and whereas in the United States, I think they're brought up, talking about being gold medalists and all of that sort of thing, and being a bit more loud and brash about it than what we would be. We're a little bit more shyer in Ireland, but and that'd be it, really, But at the end of the day, we're both driven and obviously focused on achieving the same goals.
I always got the sense there was a great bit of fun in the Irish boxing camp. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm misreading them all and thinking they're jokers when they're very serious most of the time behind the scenes. But is that the case? Would there be kind of a bit more fun in the Irish camp, or is that very much there in the US team as well?
Oh, without doubt. I think that was part of what we did. We made the times as much as we could, as much fun as possible.
Okay.
In staff, and and similar to that in US, I've generated that as well. Maybe not to the same extent, because sometimes they don't get the jokes I'm telling. Maybe I speak too fast sometimes, but they can't understand what I'm saying, what I'm talking about. Some of the language is a bit different,
I can imagine. So you were saying they're successful from an American point of view, best games in a long time from a boxing perspective. We're talking 4 medals. So 3 American men claimed silver and O'Shea Jones won bronze in the welterweight. So 4 medals coming home. Are the powers that be at USA Boxing happy with that? Do you go in for a review and all that kind of stuff?
Very happy. I think obviously, like everybody else, with the year that we had, we didn't know where things were going to happen, and what I continually said to the powers that be, I said, this is going to happen. This games are going to happen. We need to be ready. We need to get out there, because our Olympic training centre was closed since a year last March. We haven't been allowed into our Olympic training centre, so we had to go on, and we had a disused Macy's store that we took our rings out of the Olympic training centre, brought them over to there and set it up. We rented out that and we trained there. We actually, because I kept saying, look guys, this is going to happen, and there's no point in going to the Olympic Games and saying, oh, it was COVID. I said, the whole world has COVID. We've got to be physically, mentally prepared for this day when it happens. It did happen, but we were prepared. We had done, we forced it.
Yeah.
We made it happen inside a disused Macy's store.
You're joking. Hang on, so your Olympic training centre was closed. My sense of the US had been now it was a far more relaxed situation about COVID, not least when the great Donald was in office. I'm amazed your Olympic training centre was closed.
No, they were very strict on protocols, and because I suppose Colorado, and we're in El Paso County, whatever the numbers were, they were pretty high, I think, and then the doctor that was Dr. Finoff, who was in charge of the Olympic Training Centre, was very, very afraid of anybody getting COVID in there. So there was a few residents, only 7 or 8 residents, and some of them were Paralympians, and I think there was a fear that someone would pick up COVID and had, compromised immune systems, which would have been devastating for anybody that was there. So it was closed, and it's not, I heard the news before I left Tokyo that they're looking at reopening it in September.
Wow, that is very conservative. And so I'm trying to think of other indoor activities. Was the swimming program closed and affected that way? Was the gymnastics centre closed, or was boxing particularly safe?
Yes, boxing was, and all those sports you just spoke about, and wrestling, where the combat sports are there, judo, taekwondo, all of those, none of us were allowed out there for training. Yeah.
And did they go and find an empty Macy's as well, or what did they do?
Yeah, wrestling went to some barn. Some guy had a big barn, and they bought all their equipment out there, and then they ended up going to some of the universities like Penn State. I think they went to Penn State and to finish off their preparation. And some of the rest of them found other places to train. It's a case of having to.
I'm amazed at that. I did not know that was the American preparation coming into the games. That's extraordinary. I mean, I would have said if all these various programs are going to train anyway, which realistically they were, then it probably made most sense to just open the training centres, the official ones, and let people away in as safe a place as possible. So that seemed like an odd one.
Yeah, but that was the battle we were having, and we were saying that it was better for our kids that are living in different cities all over America. It was better for us to have them together in the Olympic Training Centre, where it was a sterile, safe environment where they were tested regularly. It made more sense for us to be there to keep them safe, rather than leave them out in their home places where they're going out and hanging out and going to boxing gyms where there's lots of other people. Anyway, we had that battle a long time ago, and we gave up on it and ended up in Macy's.
There was you thinking the IABA were bad.
For sure.
No comment, says you.
No comment.
So what was, I mean, we're obviously very parochial, I think, when it comes to the Olympics over here. So, I mean, where you really kind of jumped into our coverage was when you were speaking after Duke Reagan's win over Kurt Walker, and you had your mask on and you were quite a bit away from the microphones, but it was fairly apparent you were very genuinely upset. That was not an easy day for you, it seemed.
Yeah, it was, I think I described it as the toughest thing I've ever done, to be honest. And I didn't realise that it was going to be. It just hit me throughout the fight. Obviously, the fight was a fantastic fight, and it was one of those that could have went either way. Kurt could have won it as easy as Duke did. It was that close. But yeah, it just hit me. 17 years of age, bringing Kurt into the senior program to one day win an Olympic medal for Ireland, and here I was in the opposite corner, being part of a group that were preventing him from winning that medal. So it just really hit home to me. And I suppose we had spent a good bit of time, like everybody else, in training camps and being away, and I hadn't been home for quite a while, and I don't know whether it was the whole emotion thing of Ireland. It was the first time at the Olympic Games that we actually came up against my own country, and the Irishness in me and the maybe missing home or whatever really hit me that day. And obviously, Kurt, I've known him since he was a kid, and he's a great young man and a tremendous talent, and has won lots of medals at different levels in Ireland. And I felt so bad for him. And then I think it was a combination of all of those things that I broke down and cried. And I went back to my dressing room and to the dressing room with everybody else, and I just went in the corner on my own and I cried. And Duke came over to me. He said, "Man, I'm sorry." He said, I know it's your country and all of that. And yeah, it was, yeah.
God. Yeah, that's very interesting, because I don't know, I just thought at this stage, 6 years removed and everything else, that you'd be almost a bit more professionally removed from the thing somehow. So that's quite interesting. It did hit you that way.
Yeah, and like I suppose, at the end of the day, us boxers are supposed to be tough. I'm not really that tough at all. I'm a big softie at the end.
Clearly, yeah. Yeah, but it's an interesting point you make as well. You haven't been at home in a long time, and I guess you're in the vicinity of Team Ireland. I mean, you're all kind of bumping into each other, I would think, there, and stopping for chats, and almost you're maybe you're like the person who arrives home when they've been away a long time and they realise they've changed and home has changed, and geez, I'm not quite part of it the way I thought I was, kind of a moment.
Yeah, well, all the team all the coaching staff, we all work together. We're all colleagues. You know what I mean? Like, I was head coach of all of the team that was there. So, like, it was, yeah. And I had, being around them, and the banter and the bit of crack that we would have with each other was great. Was that full flow, as you would say, and a bit of slagging was going on. So we're having a bit of fun as well. I was like, it sort of was like, I'm saying to myself, man, I missed that. Like, I missed that banter and crack, which you don't have with someone that's not from Ireland, right? So that's probably was part of it as well,
Yeah.
Missing that. Listen, we had spent 12 years working together, building a program that became one of the best sporting news in Ireland, best sporting teams in Ireland, and it was great. Look, it was fantastic to see them back on the podium again, and again, especially, what Kelly and Harrington has done. That women's 60 kilo division has been at the Olympic Games for three Olympics, and Ireland has won 2 of them. It's a phenomenal record. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. And on Kelly, I'm really curious to ask you this, because we've talked a lot about her trajectory over the last couple of days, as you can imagine. I mean, she's been dominating the news, and I'm sure you've seen that, given that you're home, and seeing the brilliant footage of her homecoming and everything about it was just kind of amazing. So, reading again and reminding yourself that she might have went to those World Championships in 2016 not funded, like not a carded athlete, and obviously she was in Katie Taylor's shadow, and that was unfortunate as well. That they were of a similar weight. But I'm curious, Billy, when you first came across Kelly Harrington, say kind of, I don't know, from 2014, 2015 into that 2016 World Championship, where she really has a good World Championships, like, was she definitely Olympic medal material, or has the training really transformed what she was into this gold medal winner?
There's no doubt she had the talent. She was behind Katie, as everybody knows, for quite a while, and nobody knew her, right? And then she moved up to a non-Olympic weight. So obviously she wasn't going to get on the team where Katie was at the time, and so she moved up to another weight so that she could compete at World Championships at 64 kilos. And when she went and she won a silver medal, I think.
Yeah.
At those World Championships. So, I think the idea was for her always she was going to come back down to 60. I think in her own head, she probably was biding her time for Katie to move on and then come back. But you definitely had a talent. Look at the work with the guys, Zor, John, Dimitri, the guys that are in the Irish setup. They've done a fantastic work with them, led by Bernard Dunn. She's done a great job with Kelly, making her, like, she ended up being number 1 seed going into that Olympic Games, and then to follow through on being number 1 and win it out, it was a phenomenal achievement. And the work that they've done with her physically, technically, tactically, and mentally, to be able to go out there and produce 5 days in a row, not in a row, but 5 days over the duration of the Olympic Games, with the pressure and the intensity that was going on at the Games, which was phenomenal. As I said, I've been to a few, and this was the most intense Games that I've been to. And every minute, every second of every round, you had to fight for your life to win a point. Everybody was fighting tooth and nail from the first bell to the last bell. And if you had a chink in your armour, in any part of your armour, it was going to be found out by those athletes that you were competing against, because it was phenomenal. And her achievement cannot be underestimated in those circumstances.
No, well said. She's got a decision to make now. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. You'd have a feel for the professional game and obviously what might lie ahead of her over the next 3 years. On the one hand, Paris just 3 years away, chance to win a second gold, that would be almost immortality, and her life doesn't have to change dramatically as well. Versus, I'm sure someone's going to get in touch and say, look, Kelly, I can guarantee $1 million or $2 million over the next number of years and you can transform your life. What would you like to see her do, or what do you think she should do?
Yeah, look, and then again, it's a personal choice, you know, but, you know, women's boxing still, there's not that much money out there. As again, Katie Taylor has done a phenomenal job in raising the profile and obviously raising Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields, who was twice an Olympic gold medalist, had to revert to MMA. Her last fight was an MMA fight to try and get some money because she couldn't get anybody to fight her, or nobody of any quality. So I know there's a ready-made fight or a matchup with Kelly and Katie. It could be a big payday, but it's only going to be one payday, you know. So I think, I don't know what Kelly's thoughts would be, but you know, it'd be a great opportunity for her stay in her system, as you said, not change much of her lifestyle, and go back to the next Olympic Games and do the same again. And you know, her style, she's a very good counter puncher, good boxer, and her style maybe doesn't suit professional boxing as much as it does amateur boxing. And I'm not saying that anybody can't change, but at the moment, her style of boxing is completely suits amateur boxing, which she's very, very good at. So, you know, for me, you know, I'd love her to stay on and to represent Ireland and to go and do the same thing again, win another gold medal, which would put her in immortality, as you said, being a double Olympic gold medalist, which would be phenomenal.
The hype around her has been extraordinary, and she's taken it all in her stride, and it's been wonderful. Like, not to look for a negative here at all. I'm more asking the high performance unit, especially after I think 2008, and you know, Kenneth Egan has spoken so brilliantly about his experience and going from zero to super famous all of a sudden, and what that can be like. It seems the high performance unit will be doing things now to keep her life a bit normal. You might be able to give us a sense of some of that now, like what things were put in place after, say, the 2008 experience.
Yes, you know, we've after the 2008 experience, which was new for all of us because, you know, we hadn't won any Olympic medals in boxing since 1992, and the group that were involved with the 2008 team, we had only been in situ since 2003. So we, again, as I said, we didn't have Olympic, we didn't understand what the effect of winning, and as you said, Kenny going from zero to hero in a couple of weeks, and how Ireland reacted to him, and then how he reacted to all of the plaudits that came with it. You know, it was a difficult one, but you know, I know from the last games that I would have done pretty seriously was London with the Irish team, and from that point of view, we had set up a debrief for the team for when they came back in, and coming out of the debrief, we ended up a week later bringing their families in and having a debrief with them and explaining to them what the athletes were going to go through, because you know, everybody coming back from the Olympic Games, you know, there's very few. Kelly is the only one that achieved what she wanted to achieve. Nearly everybody else, you know, don't achieve their goals. So it's a difficult thing to deal with, you know. And then you come home to people, and they don't really understand where you've been and what you've been through for the last 5 years. You know, clawing your way up the ladder to this moment. And you know, as I said, not everybody goes, and most people go there don't perform. And then you're coming back trying to deal with that, the once in a lifetime opportunity that you don't perform on that stage. It's very, very difficult emotionally and mentally with. So I'm sure the Irish team had a debrief process, which we did after London, and everybody, as we said, everybody landed safely after London.
Yes.
Which made their landing, as I said, a lot safer and easier.
Yeah, no, very interesting. What about yourself, Billy? So like I said, 4 medals, that's the biggest haul going back some time in US boxing. The weight goes on for a men's gold, although you had 3 silver medals here, so obviously going very much in the right direction. You're staying on till Paris with Team USA, I presume, or is that TBC?
Yeah, we had spoke actually last year, and we agreed to agree, but we haven't finalised anything yet. So my contract goes to the end of this year. Yeah, I'm due to go back in a month's time and sit down and talk about Paris. But yeah, at the moment, I'm pretty happy with where we're going. We do need more support around the country in the States, and there's one unit in Colorado Springs that's doing a lot of good stuff, and we need more of those around America to be able to have them as a feeder system. If we're going to sustain this, if we're going to have this long after I'm gone, that's where the ambition would be from my point of view. And then more coaching staff. Ireland has 3 times more coaches than what we have in the States full time.
Wow.
So that's some issues that we need to address going forward. But look at, it's hard to say this, but I'm disappointed. I'm home here with winning 4 medals at Olympic Games, which is, I should be grateful and happy about. And if someone probably said it to me before the games, I would have took it. But, you get an opportunity to win a gold medal, and, 3 of our guys were really, very, very close to doing it, but we didn't achieve it. That was disappointing. We go back and have a look at what we're doing and see if we make that, turn that around going forward. But it was a great experience for everybody. And as I said, USA Boxing, they're very happy and they're in a good place, winning as many medals as they've won since 1996. So
yeah,
we're heading in the right direction.
No, I've no doubt. What age are you now, Billy?
I'm 58.
Right. Are you still going to be at this in 20 years? Will you still be at this in 20 years? I suspect you'll never want to walk away from coaching.
I don't know. I think, I suppose you get to the stage where you begin to think about the retirement. And I was completely and utterly exhausted, physically and mentally, when our super heavyweight brought the curtain down on the Olympic Games by losing that final to Uzbekistan. And it was like letting the air out of a balloon. I just went, and I was completely and utterly exhausted. So that's why I needed some time just to rest and recover, not only physically but mentally from it all. So I said to yourself, I'm getting too old for this carry on. Maybe, I don't know. But I think when Paris comes around, I'll be 61. So if God spares me that long, then maybe could be time to think about retirement at that stage. But at the moment, I'm still enjoying it. I still feel I have lots of work to do and I have lots to contribute. And I need to build up a whole new squad around me. So the good thing about being in Ireland was we were able to keep our guys for 2 and 3 Olympic Games. Unfortunately, in the States, we lose them. And you have to start all over again with a whole new crop and build an Olympic team within this time the turnaround is going to be 3 years. We're really talking 2 years because the qualifier will be on a year beforehand. So I got a lot of work to do in the short space of time when we go back if we're going to try and achieve better the next games.
Yes, it'll be full on. Listen, congrats. I take the point about a touch of disappointment when you make 3 finals, but congrats nonetheless, 4 medals, and things definitely going in the right direction with Team USA. So, Billy Walsh, enjoy the well-deserved rest, and we'll talk to you again, I'm sure, down the line. Thanks, Emil.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Wouldn't it be good if your Wi-Fi could reach all through the home? Not just in the living room and the bedrooms, but in every little nook and cranny. You could turn the basement into a cinema, or the garage into a gaming room. You'd even get Wi-Fi all the way up here. Oh, hello. New Vodafone Super Wi-Fi with enhanced coverage technology, so you can connect in every corner of your home. Powered by Vodafone Fibre Broadband. Search Vodafone Super Wi-Fi for more information. Together we can. Subject to location and availability with an eligible Vodafone broadband service. Part fibre. Installation fee may apply. Coverage based on average house CSO data. For more, see vodafone.ie/super Wi-Fi.
Feel inspired on every journey in the new Audi Q2 from just €289 per month. Whether exploring under city lights or travelling across country roads, the Audi Q2 is the compact SUV that brings adventure alive.